Surprise, motherfucker! What's up? This is your friendly neighborhood Vendor Satanus with another video. And this time I am reviewing an adventure called Sexual Holocaust. I do reviews very infrequently because it's just not what I do. And so I don't do it that well. But when people ask, and I have an interest in the thing being reviewed, and the company or the people behind it, then I give it a shot. So that's what this is. Okay. Just a little bit, and I have the PDF, which I got for free. So just going to read this. Or you can follow along, read it yourself. Sexual Holocaust is an exploitation horror scenario designed for the Wretchploitation role-playing game, which I do not have. It should be run like a low-budget horror movie with adult themes treated in a very distasteful way. That sounds good to me. The scenario takes place in a fictional town, Hamlettville, located in the surrounding area of a large metropolis, such as New York, known among its inhabitants as Crime City, and it should be set from the early 1970s to mid-1980s, as those decades are more in line with the kind of horror movie being emulated. So what I know about this one from my initial read-through is that it's mostly based on Clive Barker and the Hellraiser series, franchise, etc. But it has a very strong, like, detective, giallo, Italian thriller, police procedural kind of feel. So this is by Miguel and Sylvia. And they use Adobe stock for. They have a lot of cool artwork, as you can see throughout. So this is just a game license. I'm not sure why, because I don't think this has anything to do with D&D, but I don't have the Wretchploitation role-playing game, so I don't know. My wife said, like, "Oh, that looks cool. What is it?" And I scrolled down, and she's like, "Oh, never mind. That's something lame and terrible that you would like." And I'm like, she's the guy, like, you scroll down and then you ruined it. And I'm like, well, the fact that we can't see her entire butt, that's what ruined it for me. But that's just joking aside. All right, let's get into this. So yeah, and I'm just gonna do like a very quick run through, just give you the basics, because I reviewed one of their other scenarios, and the format is kind of similar. And if you like that, then you'll probably like this. If you don't like that, then you either have a little bit of work in front of you, which you might find tedious, or I don't know. Maybe you can figure out how to run it quickly and easily. No fuss, no muss. What I like is to be able to read a scenario very quickly and then be able to run it like right away. I don't really want to take the time and effort to read a scenario or adventure or whatever and then take a couple hours to kind of like highlight and take notes and plan out what I'm going to do and what I have to pay attention to and what I'm kind of going to avoid or not worry about. There's a lot of background. So this is just kind of like the introduction kind of goes between talking about safety tools and the ridiculousness of them for the most part. Let's talk about where the scenario takes place. And then it gets like little key plot points of the adventure. And then it gets into source inspiration. Like I said, Clive Barker and Hellraiser. And then it gets to talk about sexual violence, blah, blah, blah. And then a selected filmography. Hammetville Blues. This kind of is like a short story, I guess, to sort of get you in the mood, I guess, or to sort of give you the lay of the land without just reading normal text. So it's in a kind of a story format, which is kind of cool, kind of different. I don't know if you're going to like that or not. And then it focuses on, so if you're going to play in the scenario, then maybe don't read it. But if you're game mastering it, then yeah, keep watching. Okay, the Apostles of Pain. They're like the Cenobites. So there's 6 of them. And they go into detail about this scenario that starts with like a brutal, grisly murder, which I think the PCs are supposed to be detectives or police, like police, private detectives. They could be like occultists, or you could bring them in from a prior scenario. There's a couple different ways in my reading I found where they suggest if you ran one of their earlier scenarios, there's like recurring characters and things like that that can sort of like bridge the gap or draw you in, which is very cool. I appreciated that. So yeah, they talk about this pyramid thing, which is an artifact that kind of like kicks it off. Oh, I think that's right here. And so yeah, there's a lot of backstory. So if you like that, and if that gives you inspiration and kind of drives you to conceptualize the scenario in your head in order to run it, then this will work like gangbusters. My brain doesn't really work like that. I found, and this is ever since I started role-playing and game mastering, is that I like to have the bare bones of what's going on and the reason behind it, and then the gameable stuff and everything else. I like suggestions and random tables, but everything else I kind of like to do myself. Either take a few notes beforehand and just jump in, or just spontaneously on the fly improv it. There's an alternative story for the Apostles of Pain. The 6 apostles, so they go into detail. There's the Carnifex too. Or maybe that's one of them. Different. So there's some stats, basically stats for the different dudes, and then so they go through each of the 6, just talking about a variety of characteristics, both for the game and how they work in the scenario. Deciphering the pyramid, so there's a whole pyramid thing, like I said before, with a ritual. So did I mention I'm not great reviewing stuff? You're like, oh, Avenger, I see what you mean. Yes. Okay, fingerprints, the only clue. And what else? Okay, and then so there's a sex club too, that is like a big piece of the scenario, and it goes into detail of that. There's various people like BDSM folks that would be there or that frequent there, or they can be traced back and investigated for this murder. And I think there are other murders that happen, maybe depending on how close the investigators get. The pictures are cool because it kind of gives you a little visualization of the NPCs, and then a lot of those people are statted out as well. And then it kind of leads you along, like the next person to get murdered or the next thing that happens in the scenario. A lot of background text, as you're seeing, missing people. So then there's different ways of ending it. Closing the case, not the end, so you can kind of like bring things back or just conclude it temporarily and then carry on the scenario maybe down the road. So yeah, other NPCs. So it gives you a lot of information, a lot of background information, and monsters, sort of per se, and then the NPCs, and then based on all that stuff in the story, in the hooks, and advice on ending it, you're just sort of supposed to, cobble a scenario based on all that stuff that they give you, which is definitely one way to do it. Personally, and it reminds me of, some of the Call of Cthulhu and similar detective investigative scenarios that I've come across, that I've read through, that I've run myself, that I've played in. And it's not my favorite genre of role-playing, but I do occasionally like it. And so this is certainly one way to go. I think this is like a handout that you can use. Office of the County Medical Examiner. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, this is kind of downtown Hamlettville, where the scenario takes place. So yeah, that's it. If you like that sort of thing, I think this is very well done. And it seems like they gave you a lot of detail, a lot of information. So you could probably take all that, read it, absorb it, draw your own conclusions on how you want to run it, what you want the characters to do, or basically how you want them to deal with the situation. And, run it based on what they do. Which is, I don't know how many different ways there are to run or write even an adventure like that. Maybe there are a wide variety of ways, or maybe there are only like 2 or 3 ways. I'm not sure, because I don't deal with investigative scenarios that often. I've written a couple, and like I said, in my younger days, I've read, run, and played a number of them in the past. But my preference is for location-based ones, and this does have, a few different locations. But I like to have some sort of layout just for ease of running it, I guess. Like a house or an occult bookstore basement, or a series of caves or something like that, underground, something like that, to sort of put the PCs in, I guess. And you don't have anything like that here. You just kind of have to keep it all upstairs, and even if you write it down or have notes highlighted, you're going to have to keep a lot, upstairs. And that's difficult to do while you're engaged in running it. I think if you run this kind of scenario all the time, or at least on a frequent basis, it probably won't be too much trouble at all. Might be a snap. But for me, I would have a little bit of trouble, because that's not the type of scenario I usually run. But like I said, I heard the title, and I heard, based on watching the Red Room's video, the background, the basics of this scenario, and I thought it sounded really cool, and so I wanted to give it a look-see, and I told them that I would make a little review, and so I have. So there you go. I don't really do ratings, or I don't have a rating system, but if people just want to know at the end of the video how I felt about it, I guess maybe 4 out of 5 stars, because I think it's really cool. Might be a touch difficult to run And I, of all people, know how expensive artwork is. And I think they did a great job with the stock art. I really do. It kind of conveys what they want, and definitely is better than not having any artwork at all. But of course, it would be better if they had, commissioned illustrations, even black and white. I appreciate that as not only a designer and self-publisher myself, but as a player and reader, and just someone on the customer end of things. So mainly for that reason, the artwork, and for the fact that if I was running this, it would be a little bit more work probably than I wanted to put into it. So for those reasons, I would probably give it a 4 out of 5. But if you're different, like you don't care about the artwork, and you like that type of information presentation, then, awesome for you. Go hog wild. Maybe this is a 5 out of 5. So that's it for me, I think. Thanks for watching, and until next time.